Hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday in the Rib. We haven't seen you since last year, so Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
CJ's a little under the weather. I'm going to rat him out, so don't. So if he falls off the chair, don't. He didn't disappear. So he's still here. He's gutting it out just because we have to do the show. And I guess we better start with the tragic events that happened in New Orleans, and there was another issue in Las Vegas, but New Orleans was I guess the death total right now, there are people still in the hospital, I guess, but
right.
I guess the death toll, they finally got it at 14. That's the number I've been hearing lately, but because I've been, I'm like you, I watch the news virtually constantly, and they were all over the place, 10, 14, 16, 15, then there were a bunch of people, supposedly he was being assisted, then he wasn't being assisted, and it was just people trying to look into the cooler to see if there's any liquor in it, where the IEDs were. But the unfortunate part about that, obviously, are the lives that were lost because of incompetence. Let's just make that very clear. When you saw that press conference in New Orleans, it was the ode to DEI. You saw all these DEI hired people just making a total mockery of their incompetence. They have no idea. They're so dumb, they have no idea. The DEI to them means diversity, equity, and inclusion, but it means didn't earn it. That police chief in New Orleans should have been terminated immediately by the other loser mayor they got there. They defeated our plan. What plan? They had a police car blocking the street and left the sidewalk open. Who the hell does that? Plus, there's millions of dollars missing that they got to get barriers. That's the next part of the issue. But you look at that moron police chief. Oh, they defeated our... We had a police car. New York City had dump trucks, giant trucks. Oh, it was like, he drove on the sidewalk? Really? He's going to mow down people with his truck. You think he gives a shit whether they're on a sidewalk or in the middle of the street? These people are morons. DEI hires. This is what you get with the chaotic Biden administration. We got people stealing women's dresses in the airport. He appoints them to the cabinet. You talk about people and talk about chaos. This guy's destroyed the country. I mean, this is impossible. Then the FBI agent, DEI hire, first one. It's not terrorism. No, people drive a truck through a whole bunch of people with an ISIS flag on a truck. It's not terrorism. Let's rule that out right away, because it might be politically bad for that. Well, I heard somebody refer to him, and I might be wrong on the last word, but I thought it was a pretty accurate description of Biden. He said a dementia-addled, barely animated cadaver. Because he said, how could the Democratic Party put him in office in the first place? Because they knew from day one he was a dementia-addled, barely animated cadaver. And that's what he was. So who's running the country? People who don't have the best interest of the people. People died in New Orleans. That's a travesty. And they're trying to make it look like they did everything possible. Oh, we had barriers. They had little tiny stuff you get when you close a road. You don't think a terrorist is going to get through that stuff? It's like this is something new. We don't know about terrorism. What was it, CJ? Was it in the 60s that they drove a truck into the Marine barracks in Beirut?
Yep.
In the early 60s.
Yes.
In the early 60s. You think we frickin' learned anything? These morons that they put in charge of people because they're DEI shit? New Orleans. I mean, Bourbon Street's a zoo all the time. Let alone on New Year's Eve. This is why the 20th can't come fast enough. We need some people who are going to put public safety, not defund the police first, who are going to learn from what they've done. I mean, look, New York City, as bad as that place is, they cordoned off everything with giant trucks. You don't need fancy barriers. You put in a giant dump truck or a cement mixer. Nobody's running through that with a truck.
That's right. That's right.
I mean,
the location of this attack was the center of New Orleans for all events.
Yeah.
Whether it be Mardi Gras or New Year's Eve, that area is the center of the celebrations. So obviously this guy knew what he was planning and he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I've heard from a couple of people that are there saying it's not terrorism. I believe it's terrorism.
Oh, they've changed it. Now the FBI, they immediately got rid of that DEI hire right after they blew up at that press conference. They sent the deputy director down to say absolutely it was a terrorist attack. And like I said, this is outrageous because, I mean, listen, ISIS isn't, they're not even hiding it. They're telling people online, get a truck, go blow up shit. You don't have to come over here and pick up an AK-47 and fight with us. Grab a truck, get some explosives, go kill people. Go kill people. And as you said, New Orleans, it's always been a hub. And this is what they do? They put a police car, that bozo they got there? You're not going to tell me she's not a DEI hire. She doesn't have a functioning brain cell in her head. You leave a sidewalk open. Oh, he went around the police car and went up on a sidewalk. No shit. But they ignore everything. Like I said, early 60s. There was just one in Germany. I mean, geez, what are you going to do to get these people to get their heads out of their asses and protect the people they were elected to serve? It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. You look at that thing, the truck just went right by the police car that was across the street and just made a right turn right around the nose of the police car, jumped the sidewalk, and off he went. But what does this administration do? They hide everything. Everything's fine. Just like the guy who drove the SUV and killed a whole bunch of people up in Wisconsin or Michigan during a parade, they squashed that shit. The mainstream media didn't want to talk about that because it was a black radical. It was okay, like BLM burning down cities. Shut up. That never happened. Don't talk about it. Everything's wonderful. It's a disgrace. 13 Americans died in Afghanistan because of this useless piece of waste, this human being. They put him in office knowing he was incapable of doing anything. I want to know who's behind this. And I hope the Trump administration does an investigation to find out who the F has been running this government for 4 years. I want to know who's really running it. I got a pretty damn good idea. But this is outrageous. And then they march them up in front of a camera to make fools out of themselves. Police chief is a moron. Oh, we had wedges. What happened to the millions of dollars they gave you? Oh, whoops. We lost money again? That's what the Democrats do best. They lose money. Whoops. We got 7 years in a row. The Pentagon can't account for hundreds of billions of dollars. Whoops. We left them hundreds of billions of dollars worth of military equipment in Afghanistan. Whoops. It's our taxpayer money, and people are dying in this country because of them. Let them in over the border. Oh, they're American citizens. That's the first thing they have to tell you. Well, yeah, they were radicalized. You don't think there are other terror cells of illegals in this country? They're just waiting. Like I said, this is outrageous. I mean, they told them they were coming. And they didn't do shit in New Orleans. They put up a little tiny ass barrier. They should all be put in jail. They should be held accountable for murder. It's a total disregard for their job, their public safety. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this is nuts. You think if the Japanese would have called Roosevelt and said, oh, by the way, December 7th, we're bombing Pearl Harbor. You think they would have been ready for it? Of course they would. Even though there were a lot of people that said they had a pretty damn good idea they were doing it. But again, government fails. They lose money all over the place. Where's the money for the? No, is anybody going to investigate what happened to the money they gave them to get protection for that area? No, of course not, because we got the Dems. They just lose money arbitrarily. They just, well, shit. Well, a few trillion here, a few trillion there, and before you know it, we're talking about real money. But we don't give a shit. It's only the taxpayers' money. And people are dying. We got bodies dropping. And then you got the other guy who blew himself up in front of Trump Towers in a Tesla. That was, I guess, they're investigating what that's about and what message that was sent. But according to now the reports, because they sent everybody up to do damage control, they sent the deputy director of the FBI down, and they got that one. They hid her in an office somewhere now. But they never fire anybody. All these people that screwed up, like with the Trump assassination attempt, which was a debauchery, they all just disappear into the woodwork like people do at City Hall. They just get hired, they get a little job, then all of a sudden that mayor's gone and they're still wandering around somewhere. They're like ghosts walking around, and that we're paying. But this is just it just pisses me off, and the thing is, it's like this was not Pearl Harbor. Those people at Pearl Harbor who died didn't know they were coming. Government had an idea, no preparation, just like this. ISIS is on media platforms telling these people who they radicalize. You don't need to come over here and grab an AK-47 and fight. Do it in your homeland. Cause chaos. Kill people. Kill as many as you can. They tell them trucks are a really good way to do it. We just had one in Germany not that long ago. They've been all over the world. We've had these things. And we've had people use trucks in the United States. You think on New Year's Eve? I don't know. I mean, we need some people. They talked about, but the adults are in charge now. Look, he doesn't know what end is up. He doesn't know what day it is. I don't know if he's got a diaper on yet, but I hope so because he's full of it. But this is this. I mean, I'm enraged by this. I mean, it's just, and these two. They're saying the second one wasn't ISIS encouraged. The first one was in New Orleans. He had an ISIS flag, and they talked about him becoming radicalized. The second one in New Orleans, now they're saying it was a domestic. He had a fight with his wife, something, and he was having problems with his marriage. He came home on leave, and then he did this. I don't know if they'll ever get to the bottom of that one in Vegas because it's kind of hard to track. But they eliminated the possibility as being some kind of why he did it in front of Trump Towers, because they're reporting that he was a avid Trump supporter. And I don't know what the message. He used the Tesla because now Elon Musk and Trump working together. But that's another issue. But this thing in New Orleans is outrageous. Oh, yeah. No, you're right. Look, they've been breaking into cars for years, and their answer is like the federal government. They ignore it. We've had all these attacks and things like this, and they don't focus on anything. They just, after the fact, they're reactionary. I got my car broken into downtown, God, I don't know how many years ago, and that was, I called the police. They said, we're not going, eh? It's so routine. It's like, file a report online. You got the bills for what they stole. You got to ask them, you tell us what they stole and blah, blah, blah. And that's the end of it. Like I said, like in New York City, they said, well, we're getting too many shots fired, so we'll only count the ones that hit somebody. So that's all they do is cover up shit. Coogan's like, everything's wonderful. This is the Democratic, AP, you're right. This is the Democratic MO. Deny everything. You people are nuts. There's no crime here. The city's wonderful. Wonderful. That's why Commonwealth Magazine ran a thing about affordable housing. Do you know that Massachusetts is at the top for percentage of, I think I saw that, and I'll have to go back and look at that show. I think I still got it on tape when they were talking about homelessness. But do you know Massachusetts is one of the top states for family homelessness? I think that's a very important stat. You know why? Families aren't all on drugs. I mean, there may be some. I mean, you can never say never. But families, these aren't people who have mental problems, drug problems that are living in the street. We're talking about homelessness for entire families because they can't afford to live in to rent. They can't afford it in Massachusetts. And it was over 70%. I don't know, 73 or 70 something, over 70% of the homelessness in this state now are families. That's a travesty. While our governor is giving out pay raises. CJ, you want to tell them about the pay raise?
Yes, I've got that pay raise right here in front of me.
Oh, what a coincidence.
Yeah. Governor Maura Healy orders 11% pay raise for Mass lawmakers in 2025. Governor Maura Healy ordered an 11% pay raise increase for Massachusetts legislators, according to a letter she sent to the Treasurer Deborah Goldberg Tuesday. In the letter, Healy wrote that the administration used the U.S. Census Bureau's American Community Survey and determined the median household income for Massachusetts for 2023-2024 period increased by 11.39%. As a result, lawmakers will now have their base salary increase by $8,391 from $73,655 to $82,046, according to the State House News Service. The increase in the lawmakers' base salary comes after a state official announced that Healy and other statewide constitutional officers would receive a 10% pay increase on January 1st, a change that, under state law, triggers increases in the various leadership and travel stipends which legislators collect, in addition to their base salary. In addition to lawmakers receiving an increase in their base pay, the legislative leadership will see an additional increases that exceed their base pay, according to the Globe. House Speaker Rick Mariano and Senate President Karen Spiker extra pay is set to reach $119,682, according to the Globe. So there you go. There you go. This is what happens when they take voters voting for pay raises away from the voters.
Yeah, you're right. And the thing is that isn't it amazing that they find all these these statistical ways to justify it? I don't know how the average income went up 11% statewide. Well, I do, because it's in places like Newton and Wellesley and places like that. But I can tell you what, they didn't go up 11% in Fall River. It hasn't gone up 11% in the last 10 years on a per capita income in the city, but the rents have gone up 100%. More than 100% in some cases. I remember when the rents were, what, $750 in this city for a month?
Yeah.
Now they're $2,000. Do the math. That's more than 100%. That's like 170%. They've gone up. Isn't it amazing? They always figure out a way to give themselves money when they don't need it. And remember, that is always fashioned to con you. They talk about their base salary, but I'm going to have to pull that whole article about Mike Roderick being the third highest in the state for all the perks, because they're not making $70-some thousand.
No.
Because that's their base pay. Then they get $100 every time they drive to Boston if they live more than 20 miles away from Boston. Then they get their committee stipends, and then the stipend for being speaker, the stipend for being whip, the stipend for being the stipend for only going to the toilet twice in one day, and every other stipend they can come up with. So they go up there, walk around. Yeah, no, you're right. I read the stat. You're right, AP. Went up, it has been hovering at years just below 20. 19.6, and I know those numbers because I'm always looking them up. 19.5, 19.6, 19.8. We got close, but this year we were nearly 21%. It was, last time I checked, it was 20.8. Poverty rate's gone up, the homeless rate's gone up. But Maura Healy's given billions of dollars gave billions of dollars to the illegals, while we have homeless families, and we're at the top, one of the top states for homelessness for families. That's unacceptable. These people are not running the government for you. They're running the government for them and their friends and their rich friends. That's why they got to go. Fall River went red. Paul wants to keep a Democrat because he wants to keep lying. And this city, this is what they do. You got mini Joe Biden in the 6th floor. All he does is lie and misrepresent. They tell you, Hitler and Goebbels were right. You tell a big enough lie often enough, people will believe it. Well, people aren't believing it anymore. They saw what happened in New Orleans, which was just a devastating tragedy to those people. They wanted to go down there on New Year's Eve and have a good time in their country. And I saw some of the personal reports on these people. These people were, just regular people. One guy, went to college, played football for the university he was in, and now is working, and somebody else is a regular person. These were just regular Americans trying to go out on a New Year's Eve and have a little, do a little partying. And like I said, the government was warned. That's why the people of this country elected Donald Trump. This is why the people have no trust in the government anymore. They don't trust the FBI. They don't trust the CIA. They don't trust any federal agencies anymore because they've been lying to us for 4 years. The border was closed. Homeland Security, the border's closed. It's tight as a drum. Not admitting it. Even on their networks, they're finally doing well. I saw one the other day. It was CNN or MSNBC. They're showing a graph of how many illegals came in under Biden. They showed Trump down here and here's Biden like 300 and some thousand a day versus 50,000. Yeah, but most of those 50,000 under Trump went right back to Mexico. These people all got in. And the thing is that all they do is lie. But people, you can't lie to people when they can't buy food. You can't lie to the over 70% of people who are homeless in the state of Massachusetts because they can't afford to have a place to live. Yet we give them hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine, hundreds of billions of dollars to get transvestite monkeys in Indonesia. Yeah, they did a study. They did. It was like $750,000 they gave to one of the Pakistan or something to find out. And then they had the other one that was doing, what was that other one? It was with Rand Paul. Rand Paul always gets that, the list of absurdities that they've done. And I watched that. And they also did a study on if they gave mice cocaine, were they happier? Were mice that took cocaine less depressed than mice who didn't take cocaine? You think they could find something more freaking ridiculous to spend our money on? And I don't know what political kiss ass got some senator or congressman to push that bill through. But this is the kind. So someday, get online, look up Rand Paul's. He does it every year. He does a list of the insane crap that they blow money on, and most of it is in foreign countries, most of whom are our enemies. And you wonder why? People elected Trump, all you lunatic Democrats that are still saying Trump is, Biden is great, he's sharp as a tack, and it's like, you always were a minority, but even your own party now has to turn on you because they'll never get elected again. I mean, people just can't. Even James Carville, the god of democratic national politics, finally had to admit the party has become a total unmitigated disaster. Just like the city. We're sitting here in the city, like AP was right. He's, people getting their cars broken into, people getting stabbed, people getting shot, people getting attacked, but nobody, don't worry about it. Everything's great. Only one guy got a bullet hole this week in his house. No big deal. New Orleans. Now they're all covering their ass. But they're so dumb they can't even cover their ass. That idiot police chief down there is still trying to make it like she didn't do anything wrong. Oh, they defeated our plan. What plan? You weren't cordoning off those streets for traffic. You were supposedly preparing in the event of a terrorist attack. So do you think leaving sidewalks open that somebody could drive down, was doing it. You got millions of dollars to have the actual equipment to protect them, but it's missing. But like I said, you've got 14 innocent Americans who are just trying to have a good time dead. And, condolences to their families, and people should remember this. But let's remember what caused this. It's the total lack of focus on the American people. Remember, they've been running it a lot. They won't run it on a regular networks, but they'll run it on Fox. They showed Joe Biden telling you ISIS is not a problem. Al-Qaeda is not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is white supremacy and MAGA extremists. They had a guy that was in the FBI for I don't know how many years, and he said, in all the years I was there, we never had a white supremacist incident except in prisons where they have gangs. The white supremacist gangs fight the blacks and the Hispanics. So they never had one. Show me where the American Nazi Party drove stuff anywhere or killed people. Did the American Nazi Party burn down cities? No, wait a minute. That was BLM and Antifa. But Joe Biden told you, shut up. Don't worry about the terrorists that hate America. It's those dirty, rotten Republican MAGA people. That's who it is. They're garbage. They're garbage. They've elevated since now. They started off as just deplorables, but they've worked their way up to garbage. And now they're threats. That's why I'm going to send my FBI to investigate people who go to school committee meetings and complain about the school department, or arrest grandmothers who are picketing outside an abortion clinic. That's what we're going to do, because that's important. And all you freaking morons who defend him, remember that. Back to you, CJ.
Well, that's interesting, the way you put that out there, because I'm looking at all these different things. I just saw a picture, several pictures of the destruction of the truck in front of Trump Tower.
Yep.
I saw some fuzzy pictures of what happened in New Orleans. It's not that it's not heard of. It's not that people don't expect it. We've become numb to it. We've become numb to it. And I think that's the problem. It happens so often that we don't think about it anymore. And we shouldn't have to live that way. Just like we shouldn't have to live with shots being fired around our city, but it's not a problem because you weren't hit.
No, you make a very good point, CJ. We should remember this. We should start every day in this country talking about these people who died, starting with the 13 soldiers who were killed in Afghanistan because of Biden's debacle. That withdrawal that they allowed. Yeah, look at his watch. And to this day, from Abbey Gate, he has not ever called those families.
Right.
Ever. Jocelyn and Gary, all the other people who were murdered and killed by illegals. There's only been one Tren de Agua case so far, no matter what they've done. And they've done a lot of things over in Denver and places like this. This is the problem. They want you to forget, and we shouldn't. This is why Trump got elected. But we can't forget these people. These people should not have died in vain. They've died in vain if we let them tell us to forget them. We can't forget them. I think Hannity used to run the names of all the people who were killed and injured and attacked by illegals all the time. Oh yeah, no, you're right, Jeff. Yeah, and AP was right about all they care about is the rich people. But yeah, because there could be there's going to be, look, January 20th is going to be the beginning of someone who actually wants to make America not only great again, but safe again for the American people. But the Democrats are doing everything they can to stop that. They're going to stop. They don't want his appointees to take over the FBI and straighten it out. They want it like this. They want chaos. They want chaos because that keeps your mind occupied with trying to not get killed. And that's why we can't forget all those people. These people in New Orleans, the people in, the guy in Vegas, that's, like I said, they're not saying it was a domestic thing, but you know who's really pissed off? Those two rentals, because I guess Al-Qaeda ISIS must have said, well, don't blow up your own truck, rent one. Because the guy in New Orleans had a rental truck, and the guy in Vegas had a rented Tesla, which is big money. That Tesla truck's going to be like 150 G's, but he had a Tesla truck, and I guess that app that they rented it from, they're not going to be happy. Those companies. No, you're right. Look, the waterfront, AP, look, the waterfront's never been for the people. Let's remember who started that waterfront movement. God, when some of you weren't even born yet. Remember Point Gloria?
Yeah.
You and I remember that, CJ.
That was the biggest debacle ever created.
That was the first shot at developing the waterfront. The rich people said, let's build this fancy building down there, and we're going to put all these condos in there, get all these rich people to move in, and then we'll develop the waterfront around them, and we're going to make it a great place for just the rich people. Probably won't even let the regular poor people down here, but we're going to have, they've been trying to develop that waterfront for decades. This isn't something new. They finally got their wish with these clowns up in Boston and the MBTA. They used that as their leverage. But the reality is they built Point Gloria. And actually, I was on you remember the Fall River Regional Task Force?
Yes, I do.
I was on a regional task force by my office, being a president of the Firefighters Union, and I was on the executive board of that task force. It was a very effective task force. But I was on there with a guy who was a pretty wealthy guy. He was a banker. And he bought the penthouse, one of the penthouse apartments, condos in Point Gloria. 5 years later, he moved out. You know why? Because they had Section 8s in there. They couldn't rent the damn things. Still there, I think. But another fiasco. These people are building all this crap to make their friends rich, and then they're going to leave, and they don't rent them. They don't rent them. They made money on it. They'll just dump the place and move on to the next place because they're rich and they can do anything they want. They can absorb this stuff, and the city suffers because there is nothing in Fall River in the last 3 terms with Coogan as the mayor that has ever been directed to helping the homeless, small businesses, and the working poor. He's done zero. Nothing. I don't mean going down there for show you have a camera. Oh, I gave a $20 bill to a homeless guy. Oh, yeah, okay, Paul. Your Mother Teresa. And in your case, Mother Paulisa. I don't know. But, I don't know. These people, we see it. The people who watch the show see it. We got to get the rest of the people who got out and voted for Trump out there to elect some new people. 49,000 people, not 12,000 or 14,000, 49,000. I can guarantee you, if we get anywhere near that, Coogan's flying out of that 6th floor so fast, it'll look like he left a vapor trail.
Definitely. That's all we can hope for. I mean, we had it happen in November. Hopefully that continues and comes back into Fall River in September and November again this year. And clean house. Time to clean house. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. I feel like crap today, so sorry about that.
We hope you feel better, CJ. We all do.
This is the first show of the year, so hopefully it gets better after this. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Monday.